to order with our mission statement, which is above all else, we are committed to the creation of a safe and understanding environment for our students and staff while providing a world-class education. Mr. Carswell, are you going to open our meeting?
Yes, ma'am. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for today, Lord. We thank you for the blessings that you granted each one of us. I pray and ask you to continue to bless us, bless our school district as we prepare for the school year, and just watch over us tonight as we make decisions that bring you honor and glory. For in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have our superintendent spotlight. Thank you.
My name is Nicholas Chowdhury. I'm the class of 2023 valedictorian. I'll be attending Yale University in the following year. I've been a part of the school system since kindergarten. I graduated from Pine Mountain Elementary, went through LCMS, and I'm now going to graduate at CHS. One thing that I have to give credit to the school system is that it's very diverse in what it has to offer. From elementary, I mean, my first start, like the first thing I ever did in terms of like an extracurricular was an art program, surprisingly enough. And I was good in that because people were there to support me the whole way. And I mean, as I transitioned through elementary, I started to diverge and find a lot of more options. Like academic-wise, there was a math bee, there was a spelling bee. There was also a brain bowl that we happened to win in 5th grade, and that was probably the thing that kicked off everything about me. Probably what kind of influenced me to end up here today, because it helped me find my passion for academics. Help with resources from the community, help from other like leaders in the community. I was able to find out what I wanted to do, and that had to do with the sciences, molecular biology in particular. So the fact that I got into Yale was probably the perfect reward I could ever ask for doing so much here. And I'm grateful I'm going to pursue that degree and my dreams at Yale, because it shows that it doesn't necessarily matter where you come from. It just matters like how much work you put into it, which is what I think public schooling and what CHS embodies. And that's hopefully what I'm going to carry when I go into Yale and I pursue this degree. I'm confident that this school system will not leave you behind and will make sure that you get what you wanted coming into it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Carswell. At this time, we will invite visitors to comment on any action item that we have, but before we do, we did move one consent item to an additional item to the action item agenda, which is on page 6 of the consent agenda, and it's number 4, to approve the consultant agreement with ESF Educational Consulting for instructional data planning and guidance for the 23-24 school year. So that item has been moved to an action item. So at this time, with knowing that, is there anyone who would like to come and address the board as to any of the 4 action items? Okay, with no one moving forward, we will move to item number 5 on the agenda, which is to close and adopt the agenda. Board members, as I've just stated, we have moved one additional item to the action item, which will make that action item D. Are there any other changes or additions to the agenda, Mr. Carswell?
No, ma'am.
Madam Chair, if I could,
Yes.
on the addendum, there is the removal of policy 3.12.
Okay.
That was not ready and not included with your packet, so that
Okay.
has been removed, and then obviously with the addendum.
Okay. All right. So with those changes, do I have a motion to close and adopt the agenda?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussions further regarding the agenda? All in favor of closing and adopting the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. The agenda is approved. We'll move forward to our action items, and the first is to approve our personnel items. There are personnel items on the agenda and the addendum Just to making certain, Mr. Carswell, that they are all in order.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion to approve the personnel items?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the personnel items on the agenda as well as the addendum.
Thank you.
Second.
Have a motion and 2 seconds. Is there any discussion? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the personnel items, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Personnel items are approved. And moving on to action item B, which is to approve the trim budget advertisement for the 23-24 fiscal year. Those attachments can be provided by Ms. Laxton. Is there a motion to approve the trim budget advertisement?
So moved.
A motion, is there a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the advertisement? With no discussion, all in favor of approving the advertisement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. The item is approved. Moving on to discuss and approve the job description of maintenance supervisor. Do I have a motion to approve the description?
Madam Chair, could we get Mr. Gaylord to give us a rundown on that?
Yes, please.
The position description is to provide within our current maintenance organization, maintenance supervisor for day-to-day activities. Given the outlook with all the planning and pre-planning and involvement on the construction-related agenda that we've got set forward for the next number of years, it's kind of foreseen that my time will be involved in construction more so. Two of the options simply are to hire through an outside consulting firm, someone to deal with some of the day-to-day clerk activities on the construction projects. And as I discussed with Mr. Whittaker and Mr. Carswell, the issue with that is when you do that, and you hire an outside agency, they came in. I experienced it as far in history past as 1987 with the jail, when I was hired by the Board of County Commissioners to handle the completion of the jail. And the Board of County Commissioners hired an outside firm that would come, a young man would come once every 2 weeks and write a report. And then what happened is I had to deal with that as well as the construction activities. So it's the same thing we experienced with some of our recent construction projects, where when you hire an outside firm, they'll come in and write a report, but dealing with the issue still falls on the responsibility or the purview of the maintenance office. So I recommended to Mr. Carswell that he would consider taking one of our current leadermen and putting him in a position of a day-to-day maintenance supervisor. And I would spend the bulk of my days with the construction-related activities.
You would still be over.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Scarville, what would be the budget impact on that?
I think we budgeted maybe a $5,000 bump up in one of the leaderman position. It's significant for that person, but not significant when you look at the totality of the district. I can get that back to you. We have not advertised this. We have not advertised this nor done anything with it, obviously. We were just bringing it forward to get the, and so next week I can bring you back to the exact salary schedule, what it is.
That would be, if you think it's in that neighborhood. I just wanted to have somewhat of a handle on what we will.
It is, and like Mr. Gaylord said, we're trying to free him up to spend at least 2/3 of his time, or a good portion of his time, with the 1/2-cent sales tax and the 1.5 mil new construction, new maintenance type stuff. And this will give us a person on the other side of the routine maintenance to oversee the whole group of people.
Mr. Question. Have you been able to do construction projects before and supervise maintenance?
Yes, ma'am. The difference is, back when I did that in 2000, when Fort White High School was built and West Side was built, we had 9 more people on staff than we have today. And we have more square footage today. So the day-to-day maintenance demands are far greater than they were in 2000.
And if I made the board, this is for the future. I mean, obviously, Mr. Gaylord's a great person, can do what you just said, has done it for years, but this is a 20-year commitment with a 1/2-cent sales tax, so we're trying to set up a system to where over the next 18, 19 years, we have a maintenance department that can flow seamlessly under leadership of people like Mr. Gaylord, and don't know how long he's planning on going, but, you know, eventually I would not assume it's 19 years. There will be a need to replace him as well. So, Board Member Peeler asked me about our maintenance staff, and Mr. Gaylord said it, and I didn't have to, but we're down about 9 people from where we were. Here again, you know, trying to be frugal, but at the same time, and I'll be honest with you, it's hard to get good people now in our maintenance staff. So we may want to look at that as a board over the next few board meetings to whether we look to hire more people to help with all this. Because new construction, new maintenance, the half-cent sales tax is going to create more square footage.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
You were saying that if you did not get this position, then you would have to hire outside help.
That was the other option, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So the outside help, the expense for that, do you have an idea about how much that would be?
It'd be far greater than the
That would-
dollar amount.
That would be a totally new position that we've looked at and we thought about, but then when we look at who do we want overseeing all this new construction and new development with the half-cent sales tax, I don't want anybody that doesn't know our district. And so that's why this plan surfaced as the better choice for us, because it allows Mr. Gaylord to still be over the new part and the old part, but it gives us someone, it's like an assistant principal on the other side to help with the maintenance
But is
people.
this a new position?
No, it's raising one of the 3 leadermen up to the new position of
But is
this.
this a new position within
No.
our, is this description a new job
Yes,
description?
yes,
Yes.
it's a new job description, but the idea is that we would move one of the 3 leadermen up to this position, and then that leaderman would still have their group under
Crew.
them, but then they would have 2.
But we could also just hire more people in maintenance too. if
But we still have to have oversight.
But we have Mr.
Yeah, you have choices.
Any other questions?
Mr. Cardwell, I do want to ask, I just started thinking about this, where did the 5,000 come from? Why that number?
I'd have to ask Todd or Lindsay to look for that. That was just a number we discussed of what we wanted to do. I don't think we've created the actual salary schedule for this position.
So,
Yeah,
so what is that range?
it's in your packet.
But it would
Give me
be
a second
around-
and I'll pull it out.
Do we know what that salary range
Yeah,
would be?
it's in the packet. I gotta find mechanics. Sorry. I went straight to it earlier today when I was looking at something else. That's the wrong place, sorry. So I had to do it on the fly. Fleet management, right, is that one? That's why we charge you extra if you're staring at me. It's in here, I know it is, but I can't find it. Audit supervisor. Coordinator, there it is, coordinator transmission mechanics. His range is 51, starting out to 71. The top's out at 71,665, and it starts at 51. And then, just for reference, go back and find the leaderman is 45 to 65. So it's about a $7,000 top out at the highest end of it, and about $7,000 on both sides.
And what does a maintenance worker start out? What is their range?
A maintenance helper starts out at 31, but that's the lowest one. Then the maintenance 4 is 32.7, maintenance 3 is 34.9, The maintenance 2 is 38.5, and the maintenance 1 is 41.3, and then the leadermen are start at 45.
Any other questions?
Still waiting for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the job description of maintenance supervisor.
Second.
Have a motion and discussion, the second. Is there any discussion regarding the approval of the job description, maintenance supervisor? I just personally, I just want to say that I am opposed to it because I feel like we're creating a position, another position, creating another job description, another position with a salary range that's bordering on administrator, assistant principal, when instead you could go back to CESPA and maybe raise the salaries for maintenance workers, and maybe entice some more people to come work as just maintenance people. These guys work very hard. I'm looking at Glenn Barton, who's worked mainly at Fort White High School for many years. Does a great job in maintenance, but I know that they're stretched very thin, and I know a lot of those maintenance orders fall behind. And personally a little aggravated right now because Fort White High School was promised a scoreboard over a year ago that's still sitting in maintenance, and we still don't have a scoreboard.
Madam Chair, I believe the agreement was that it would be up by the first football game.
Well, and I also talked to someone over at Action Signs over the weekend, and it was taken there and it doesn't work because it's been sitting in maintenance. So, well, I'm just telling you what they told me at Action Signs, so.
Madam Chair, we digressed off the topic.
Okay, we do digress, but I'm a little aggravated right now. So we'll see, maybe it'll be there during the first game, but anyway, I'm opposed to this position. That's my discussion. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, I'm nay. We'll move forward. Action item number 4, to approve the consultant agreement. Read it. It's on page 6. Approve a consultant agreement with ESF Educational Consulting for instructional data planning and guidance for the 2023-24 school year. The base contract value of $36,000, retroactive to July 1, 2023.
Madam Chair?
Yes, do I have a motion? Well, let's just get a motion in a
Okay.
second, then we'll discuss it. Do you have a motion to approve that item?
For discussion, I'll move.
Okay. A motion, do you have a second?
Discussion, I'll say.
Okay. Do you have any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say an explanation to the board about my concerns regarding this. And it's nothing to do with the consultant. I have great regard for the consultant, great respect. I know the consultant, like the consultant. The consultant's grandson and my grandson are friends from school, so I value him very much. It's more of a philosophical issue with part of the program that I wanted to bring to your attention. Sometimes when you work in the school system, you know too much, and this is one of those situations where I kind of know more about the program. And I would also compliment the consultant on the professional development that was provided this year. I think we've seen through the increase in scores, through professional development toward providing a more rigorous core instruction that's helped targeting intervention. That's helped because we have a lot of teachers that are in the teaching profession with less than 5 years teaching experience. So I compliment the consultant and that professional development that helped us focus on those areas. But that's 95% of the program, and the 5% of the program that I have a concern with,
that component, I have a real philosophical disagreement with, and that is the use of the score conversion chart. And I provided a copy for you, if you can find it. Yeah, there. And that's what the name of it is, but I look at it as artificially inflating student grades. And I think that's a slippery slope. And so initially, the district was going to require all the elementary schools to implement this artificially inflating grades chart, but there was pushback, and so then they decided not to have all elementary schools implement it, but to only focus on those targeted schools that the state identifies as those targeted schools. And now I understand that at least 2 schools this year are going to use it. They've backed away from it some. And I guess, you know, I have several concerns about it. Number one, I think it violates the school board grading policy for us to artificially inflate student grades via this chart. I feel like if there's an issue with an assessment that we're utilizing, we need to tweak the assessment, or maybe tweak the percentage that that assessment counts toward grades, but not inflate student scores. And I also have a concern that I feel very strongly about keeping parents informed and realistically, and letting parents know where their student is academically. I've always believed that, and saying, look, if we're struggling, if a student is struggling, here's where they are, we're going to do this, you're going to, you know, will you help us do that? And let's work together to help the student improve their grades and their academic success. But I feel like this presents a false picture to parents whenever we artificially inflate student grades. And lastly, I feel like the optics on this are all wrong, that the targeted schools, some of them have a high minority population, and I just feel like the optics are wrong for us to do this. I have personally felt like we should have high expectations for all our students, and that when we provide rigorous instruction to enable students to meet those high expectations, they will be able to do so. And we should not lower our standards by artificially inflating student scores. It's not in our students' best interest. And so those are my concerns. Again, I think the consultant is awesome. What I would love to hear from the district is that we will not use this score conversion chart, that we would move away from that completely, and then I'll plan on voting for the consultant. But as it stands, because of those really philosophical concerns that I have based upon my years in education, and wanting all students to have high achievement and high expectations, I have concerns about voting for this.
I would like to hear from Ms. Jernigan, because you're giving your opinion, and I appreciate that, and I respect your opinion. I want to hear from Ms. Jernigan and hear how she interpret this, because I think all of us on the board have that sentiment, Ms. Hill, that we have our children, including minority students that you brought out, have high standards. I think all students should have high standards, not just minority students. But I want to hear what you have to say, Ms. Jernigan.
So thank you for the opportunity to speak. We have tried to have a conversation to moderate some of the concerns that are brought forth tonight. But what I will say is this. We started off with one plan at the beginning of last school year. We made some adjustments as we went along. I'm not sure which conversion chart you're looking at, because there were some changes as we went through the school year. When we came to this plan with Mr. Mitchell and his program, Sonia Judkins has worked closely with him through the ESSER department and school improvement. And looking at what we have rigorous standards-based instruction and assessment, and then you have what's not. Those assessments that are not converted because it doesn't need that. When you're looking at those rigorous-based instruction and assessments, the assessments are the highest level of rigor for the standard. And so, and Sonia, you jump in if I'm gonna butcher this, but when you look at that, the highest level of rigor means that it's an end-of-the-year assessment that you give at the beginning of the year, throughout the year. The student's progress may not be at 100%. So it's not necessarily fair, and you may have a child that has a assessment where they make a 20, and they still haven't had enough time through intervention and core instruction in order to make the highest level of rigor as expected, as what they would do on FSA. So what that conversion chart makes it equal, or tries to make it equal to what we would see on the FSA or the FAST scores. It tries to level the playing field there. Now, what I will say is, like I said this afternoon, for the next school year, there's still 2 meetings that have to happen with 2 different principals. It is not set in stone that it will even be used next year. And if I have my future telling skills on, I don't think that we will be using that conversion chart. That was a very small molecule in the whole plan that we had in place. It's not set in stone that we use it. Several of the principals already said that they didn't want to because they have other plans that were put in place. And with that being said, it's not necessarily a requirement of the program. If the principals have a plan and they've expressed that plan to their schools and their teachers have a good system in place, as long as we're seeing progress, that is our main goal. And with those schools that have used it in the last two years, Melrose especially, they have shown great gains, and you see a correlation in their end of the year assessments and their normal coursework grades.
But Matt, I'm going to cut you off. I don't want to give false hope saying that we're not going to use it. I mean, what she's saying is we're probably not going to use it, but there are Melrose and Fort White Elementary School have embraced it. This is an old document that I just saw sitting here. It's based on the FSA test, and we now have progress monitorings 1, 2, and 3. So the correlations are not fair. There are no inflated grades, so I do take exception to use to call it that in public. But I do think that there is no plan to use this anywhere. The other thing is, you said that all 9 elementary schools were planning to use it, and they were not. We never did anything to target the 5 schools that we planned. I use this as a BODLD project for NEFEC, and so I was involved with the 5. But the intervention strategies are absolutely fantastic, and we agree on that. So we may disagree on some other things, but we agree that. I just don't want you to think that we're not going to use it. Those 2 schools, Melrose and Fort White Elementary School, if they want to use it, we're not going to tell them they can't use it.
And I think it's, I'm sorry to cut you off, but
what I'm looking at is, this is an intervention program. This is not, we are not sending home information to parents that what they are seeing as far as the child's progress is false information. Is that what I'm
The
hearing?
grades are inflated.
No.
the grades were adjusted based on the standards-based assessments. And so the heart of the assessment, based on the highest level of rigor of the standard, we did use the conversion chart. It does not change. If a child made a 25F or 50F, it's not going to change their grade so greatly. And in the end, if they are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, if they made an F, 9 times out of 10, you will see that they made a level 1, maybe made a level 2 on the FAST test at the end of the year. That was the goal in the whole program, was to correlate the grades.
This is an intervention program, and when they take the state test, this is something that is used to help the child as far as prepping for the state test. But when they take the state test, they receive the actual score
From the
based
state
on
of Florida.
state standards.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And this is what we have used in this last year to correlate the most rigorous assessments and tests that we have to give the students in order to correlate that back to the highest level of rigor of the standards. And what we noticed in the past data was that we had our lower performing schools where the teachers may have been using assessments and assignments that were not necessarily high level of rigor. And so you had a student who might make a B or a C and then fail at the end of the 9 weeks of the year based on the FAST test or in the past FSA. So that's what this was about. Again, it is optional. The principals have that option to say we have a better plan. They need to share that plan with us, which they will, and then we will go from there.
Madam Chair, a couple of things. One of the points that Mr. Carswell brought out, in the original presentation that I attended, it was presented that all schools initially would participate in this score conversion chart, or as I called it, artificially inflating student grades. But then it did change as principals were shared with me that they were concerned about it, expressed those concerns to the district, then it was pared back to some schools. And I would make a point of saying that I would expect the scores from Melrose and the other schools who received intervention support and professional development, I would expect those scores to be better because there was a lot of support given to them, helping the teachers learn how to provide more rigorous core instruction, as well as how to provide targeted intervention for those skills that needed extra development. So again, I would expect those scores to improve, but I don't think you can tie that back to the score conversion chart.
And I don't think
And
that we were.
If I could finish,
How many schools are
I
using
would
this?
also say that,
Currently, there's
you know,
2 that are signed up.
she mentioned that the scores need to reflect what the grades need to reflect what the end of the year assessment looked like, and I totally agree with that. But my point is that there are other ways to do that, and that was one of my initial points, that there are other ways to tweak. You can tweak the assessment, you can tweak the percent that it counts toward the final grade. There are other things that you can do other than have this chart in place. And I really feel like this is a slippery slope. And again, my concern is not with the consultant or the services that he's providing. I think it's wonderful. But it's that part of the program that uses this score conversion chart that artificially inflates student grades.
If there are any, come on up.
And we, we're data nerds too, but what we've seen is over the last couple of years, we've seen a higher correlation. Now our report card grades match our end of year assessment grades. And that was our goal. We wanted to make sure our students had rigorous instruction. We wanted to make sure they received the intervention that they should receive. We're giving them grade level rigorous instruction during the core, and then we're going back and getting what they didn't get in the past, or what they've needed, or what they've missed. And then when we look at those report card grades and those end of year assessments, they're starting to match now. And so that has been really important. And when you see that higher correlation at these targeted schools, you know the rigor is there now, but you also see that data's matching at a much greater percentage, and I think that's really important for us to do.
I totally agree. I totally agree. We
Yeah.
need to make sure that the grades reflect where students are.
Right.
And that's been a conversation that I had for years when I was principal at Westside. I remember having many conversations with teams of teachers as we sat around in data meetings and looked at student scores and said, look, they're making the A honor roll, but yet they're scoring in the red on the progress monitoring. What's going on here? We need to make sure that our grades are reflective. I totally agree with that. I don't think this is the way to do that. This would work in the opposite direction.
We've not seen that, but again, Cherry, I know that a lot of what we're doing is that difficult core instruction, is that great amount of rigor now, and is that intervention, which they were not getting before, because we've worked that intervention time now into all of their master schedules at the targeted schools. And so we know that's working. We've seen that. This has been a small part of it, I believe, and a couple of schools have really embraced it, and they've seen results. but I don't think we're cheating our students, and I don't think that we're not communicating fairly and honestly with our parents. And that is something that we send home at the beginning of every school year about what we're doing with our targeted intervention programs at those schools. And I feel like we've gotten support in that from our parents.
I think it's really a philosophical issue, and I wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that philosophical issue. And you'll have to make your own decision. I want to vote for this. I totally want to vote for this, but without the assurance that this will not be used.
I want to ask a question. Okay. How many schools have embraced this and have been using this, and what has been the results?
Well, we've had 5 targeted schools. Really, 2 still want to do the, we call it the translation chart, because report card grades and end-of-year assessment grades are 2 different things.
Right.
Report card grades are based on a 100-point scale. That's not the case for PM3. That was not the case for, FAFSA. That's not the way it's done. So we were just trying to make grades translatable. So report card grades for parents are one thing, but that confuses them when it comes time for the end-of-year assessment. So we were trying to make it something that we could translate to them so they could understand. That really was the whole point of the chart, not to inflate it, not to inflate a student's grade, but to make it something that parents could understand. So when they saw, that 50, which we think of, oh my gosh, that's an F. You just made an F. On the end-of-year assessment, that's not an F.
Right.
That's typically a level 3 child.
50%.
Right, 50%. So we were trying to make it something that we could translate to parents and understand, and to our students as well.
To me, it just confuses the issue. When a child makes a 20 and they get a 50, or if a child makes a 38 and they get a 65, I think, we need to have some real honest conversations with parents. If a child makes a 20 on a valid assessment, and again, I think if they're making a 20, is the assessment a valid, fair assessment? I mean, we need to have some real conversations with parents,
Okay,
not
I
inflate their
asked the
scores.
I asked the question. How many schools? And you said 2.
2 still want to
Okay, what are
maintain
those 2 schools?
Fort White and Melrose.
Okay. And I asked that for a reason, because I have dealt with a population that had a lot of minorities. And I understand the impact that it has on the child when they start off at the school year with these low assessment grades, and it has an impact on them, and it has an impact on the message that is being received at home. And every principal has a right to decide whether they want to use this or not. But it does not determine the final assessment. And the reason why I'm asking these questions is because I have seen children who have gone home with those low assessments because they did not have the background knowledge. And children that come from low socioeconomics don't have the background knowledge, and they come in blind, and then as they go through the year, they progress. And by the time they get to the end of the year, a lot of times it does correlate. And this is the reason why I feel the need to be a voice for the families that are from the low socioeconomics. Not every school will use this, but there are some students that will use it. And I do not take kindly to it being inflated. It's not inflated. What it is trying to encourage those children to know you do have a skill set, but you do not have the background knowledge. So as you go through the school year, you do need that support because they don't know. Most of them don't even leave Lake City. They don't even leave their neighborhood. So they don't know a lot of the information. So I do understand what this company is doing. What they are doing to try to support. You have some schools where it will work perfectly. But you have some schools that the principal has a choice. And that's what I'm trying to convey.
I would like to share two things, and then we'll leave it up to the board. We would be more than happy to sit down with individual board members to go over information and data that we've gleaned over the past 2 years. So if there's ever a question, and I've already offered that to Ms. Hill, but if anyone else would like to have that sit-down conversation with us, we'd more than gladly do that. I would also like to say that this year we did adjust the total amount that that contract was written for, because Mr. Mitchell and his company have worked with the elementary schools, and it's gotten out to the middle school. I know LCMS wanted to join in to get some of his assistance with data disaggregation, scheduling for interventions, things like that. So I do know that that is something that if we decide to approve or not approve, it will not just impact the elementary schools, it will impact secondary as well. So,
Madam Chair, and I would like to say thank you. I've had 5 or 6 conversations throughout the year on this particular topic, and I was hoping that we could resolve it before tonight. Unfortunately, we haven't been, but I do appreciate all the willingness of district staff to have conversations about my concerns. I feel like it violates school board policy, and that we don't help our students by, it's not in our students' best interest, by lowering our standards.
You're not lowering the standard.
Thank you. Okay. With no further discussion, all in favor of approving consultant agreement with ESF Educational Consulting for instructional data planning and guidance for the 2023 school year, base contract value $36,000, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign?
Nay.
Okay, the agreement is approved. All right, moving forward to the consent agenda, I think there is an item. Is there an item on the addendum? There is an item on the addendum. So consent agenda with the items on the addendum. Do I have a motion to approve?
I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. I make a motion to approve the
Thank
consent
you.
agenda with the correction, sorry.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the items on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion regarding those items?
Just a couple on the policies, on the background screening for contractors. Madam Attorney, you're the one that presented these. Is that to bring that in line with state law? I mean, we're not getting any lax on this, are we? I mean, I've known of a couple of instances where we had contractors on site, had employees on the site that couldn't pass a background check.
Not at all. We're not getting lax. We're complying with state statute. There were some legislative changes to the statute numbers, so those are reflected in here as well. But yeah, nothing to lessen the standards, just to bring us in line with current state law.
What about service dogs? Just trying to bring them in line too, so people don't bring a dog there and say this is a service dog, and it's not a service dog or not a trained dog.
I will tell you this, as part of our half-cent sales tax, we had an OPAGA audit, and part of that was just updating our policies in general. So a lot of these, there's little additions or subtractions here and there. The idea is to track the statute, the statutory language, and or, like I said, just to bring them current, that we have looked at them within the last year.
It looked like on the service dogs, it was sort of tightened up on.
Exactly.
I'm good. I won't bring my dog with me.
All right. Any other discussion? With no further discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Consent agenda is approved. All right. Moving on to citizen comments. Is there any member of the audience who would like to address the board at this time? Ms. Harkness?
Tina Harkness with Meridian Behavioral Health. I just wanted to say thanks, I appreciate it. I now run the mobile response team for Meridian. I've been with them for 4 years. I was recently a vice president up in the Gainesville. I got tired of driving there. But we have expanded our mobile response team. We have a full team here in Lake City. We have now a full team that covers 11 counties. We have 3 teams. We have one over in Tri-County, we have one over Baker Bradford Union, and as well as I cover all of us here. We are here. We're here if you all need us for stress release, and some of this sounds a little stressful at times. So we do offer that option for any of you. We've spent the summer going to some of the schools this year and been able to do some coping skills with the kids and learning and teaching them how to process anxiety and worry. We also want to get into our schools and work with our staff so that they can also de-escalate some things before you need us. But if you need us, we're here. We will come within an hour, and we are there to help you all. I've left my card there. I also have more cards. If anybody needs anything, feel free to give us a call. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you so much. And thank you for the goodie bags that you gave all of the board members. I know we appreciate them, and these cute little bears. Thank you so much. School board member comments, Ms. Smith?
No comment.
Mr. Hudson?
No comment.
I just want to remind everyone of our first Sales Tax Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow morning at 9 here, open to the public. So just wanted to remind everyone of that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hill?
Yes, thanks Diana for the video. Nicholas Chowdhury, I thought that was awesome. I'm really pleased to see that we're highlighting student success, and it's always nice to see that students can make choices and go where they want to go. They don't all have to go to Yale, but if they want to go to Yale, love hearing that our CCS students have that option and that we prepared them to be able to make those choices. So thank you for that. And Ms. Harkness from Meridian, thank you. I love the little teddy bear. I think one of my grandchildren will enjoy that. And yes. And again, I just wanted to say that nothing I said tonight was against the consultant. I think he's wonderful, but I do have a strong, and continue to have strong philosophical disagreements about this policy, or the inflating student grades. I don't know how else to call it, but we'll leave that where it is. All right, thank you. Have a great night.
Mr. Peeler?
Yes, I actually have 2 things. One, I clearly wasn't up against the microphone enough, but I wanted to clarify that I was a no on the job description. I asked somebody in the back if they could hear me, and they couldn't, so I was not close enough to the microphone for that. But the second thing I wanted to remind all of you on next Tuesday, August 1st at 4 p.m., we will be doing the dedication of the office of Summers Elementary to Mr. Art Holiday.
So August 1st at 4.
August 1st, and so we will be doing that, and then coming straight here clearly. So I just want to remind everyone, I think we'll have a pretty good showing. We've talked about it, and I've talked to Mr. Holiday quite a bit, and he's pretty excited, so it'd be nice to be there. That's it.
Mr. Carswell?
I'm trying to figure it out. 50 years ago, started first grade at Summers. Art Holiday wasn't the principal, Claude Fralick was, but this Summers is dear to my heart, so I'll be there. Just want to remind everybody, August 10th, school starts back. Seems like just yesterday we were at graduation. Christmas will be 3 days later, so just batten down the hatches and get ready to roll. This thing's going to go really quick, so no further comment. Thank y'all.
Thank you all for being here. Ms. Harkness, thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do. Meridian does a lot of good services for the community, so it's, we appreciate it. And thank you all. I would love to have an update on my scoreboard. Can't wait to see it. I know Mr. Hudson can't wait to see it because he has a sign going up on it.
Yeah, it's my sign gonna be on.
We're gonna put your picture up this year.
So that's where his sign's going, so I'm sure he'll be following up on that too. So I'll be looking forward to an update. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.